Misery by Stephen King. This one came out in 1988, and it was kind of different than some of his other books because it wasn't really supernatural at all. It was very much a story that could happen. And apparently he was gonna release this as a Bachman book, one of those Richard Bachman alter ego, pseudonym, pen name, etc. books. But then people found out Richard Bachman was him, so it just was a Stephen King book. I read this last December during the winter. It was a perfect winter read because it takes place in the winter. And it was the 5th Stephen King book I'd read. I got into reading him last September. I read The Dead Zone, Salem's Lot, Revival, Cujo, It, and then this. So it's the 6th one I read by him, actually. And one of my favorites so far. And I'm going to spoil things, so hopefully, you've already read it too. What I liked was, first of all, that it was kind of short. Some of his books are pretty long, but this one was really tight and exciting all the way through. Although I still like when he rambles and talks tons about characters' backstories, but this one was the only one that made me have to put it down because, major spoilers, the part where she's chopping his leg off, I was like, I had to go do something else. It was like, ooh, gross. Gruesome stuff. I wasn't a fan of the inclusion of the parts of Misery's Return, the book that the character Paul Sheldon is writing. I found those to be kind of a drag. Early on, I thought it was interesting because early on, you're kind of interested in what this successful romance novel that he writes is kind of like. And so the first inclusions of it were kind of interesting. But then later on, when you're wanting to see how things pan out with him and this woman that's holding him hostage, you're really not wanting to have to break away and read Misery's Return. And then there's the part 2 where the character had to do it longhand too, and they actually included in the book longhand, but I actually found that kind of hard to read. I don't know, just it's like tiny cursive, but I guess I don't know. Didn't matter too much. I wasn't really into that part. Maybe there was supposed to be some kind of metaphor that ties into the story. There probably was, but I just didn't catch it with any of the Misery Returns parts. To me, it was just random parts of a book that the character's writing. But Paul Sheldon, the guy that's abducted after his car breaks down, he's pretty good character. He's got a lot of funny kind of comments he makes about the woman behind her back that made this entertaining, and it was quite enjoyable. I would say that of the Stephen King books I've read so far, this is definitely near the top. I think The Dead Zone's probably my favorite so far. But yeah, he did a great job writing about a writer, not surprising, but apparently he does that a lot. I've just started reading The Shining now, and I expect kind of more of that good stuff. And I found it interesting just that he's talking about a writer's process too. I was interested in writing a book myself, and I was working on one while I was reading this, and so I actually found those kind of insights to be kind of neat. A little bonus to reading a horror story was learning a thing or two. So yeah, one of his better books for sure. Quite enjoyed it. I will keep it on my shelf, and I would read this one again. And that's all I have to say. Thanks for checking it out. We'll see you next time.